Hey sports fans, Richard here. Today a short message called W for the win. What do I mean by W for the win? Well, one of the questions that people ask me when I'm doing vision and self-motivation work is, my gosh, this new story I'm telling myself about I'm somebody that I really know that I'm not. And how is this story, these affirmations, these visualizing, how is this gonna get me to 20 grand a month or whatever it is that I want? And so here's what I mean by W for the win. So, story, some of you have heard this story before. It's Kimmy's favorite story. It's called the Jerry Schaub story. So in 1979, I sponsored a guy named Jerry Schaub in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And, you know, Jerry was probably the, 50th, 60th person that I'd sponsored in the business, building a sales team. So, recruiting is a better word for it. And so the people that I'd recruited up to that point, some of them did a little bit, some of them did a lot and then did nothing, but essentially after 2.5 years, I had nothing going on. I had no income. I was driving a borrowed car, living in a studio apartment. And what I started doing at the 2.5 year mark, is I actually started doing a much deeper dive on affirmations and visualization and goal setting and writing it down and studying it and all of that. And so the reason I tell you that story is, how much of that did I have to do to end up building? Okay, so 2.5 years later, so 2.5 years in, 2.5 years later, I got a team of 30,000 people, and in 1981, 82, I'm making $40,000 a month, which is in today's dollars is like, 150, 200, something like that. And so did I have to visualize my way all the way to that, all the way to 30,000 people? No, I didn't. Did I have to visualize myself all the way to recruiting Jerry Schaub? No, I actually didn't. How much visualization, how much personal development, how much motivational work did I have to do? This much. So isolated to this much. So Jerry Schaub was a retail customer, and he called me and he wanted more product. And he lived 3 hours away. And, I had a borrowed car, and this was February, and it was an ice storm going on, and it was, a horrible drive from Des Moines, Iowa, which is where I lived, to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And of course, I very easily could have, and I say I would have, a week before, a month before, a year before, I would have not drove to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, because this would have been my story. My story would have been, well, I'm going to drive 3 hours in an ice storm, and the guy's going to buy a $15 bottle of product, and I'm going to make $4, and my gas is going to cost me that. That would have been my story. So I wouldn't have gone to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I would have just let Jerry Schaub go. Why? Because all he was a $15 bottle of product, potentially. So I also could have made up the story, okay, I drive all the way to Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and he doesn't show up, right? I mean, I had plenty of evidence for that. I had plenty of evidence for I would drive 3 hours and somebody would not sign up or not buy anything or not even show up. I mean, I had driven hours before to do meetings and nobody even showed up. No one. It's not like a group meeting at a hotel. I got the display, I got the chalkboard, they're supposed to bring the people. Nobody shows up. So I had plenty of evidence to make those stories up. But this time I didn't do that because for about a month, maybe 2 months prior to Jerry Schaub, I've been doing a deep dive work on my affirmations, on writing them, actually studying them and visualizing, not making tons of money, but focused really on who I was, what my attitudes were. If you have a positive attitude, things go better for you. If you have a negative attitude, things don't go well for you. If you have an abundant attitude, like, you're not hoarding everything, your time, your money, your possessions. If you have an abundant attitude, you tend to attract good things to you. And if you have a hoarding attitude, you don't. Abundance runs away from you. So I don't remember actually what I wrote. Would be fascinating training, right? To have all those notes and all those documents. I don't remember. I remember I listened to an audio tape called The Power of Goal Setting by Paul J. Meyer hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. Like, that's all I listened to. One of the advantages back then is there were only like 6 tapes. And so you didn't listen to one a year, you listened to one 100 times, right? So you actually internalized it. So here's how much visualization work I needed to do. I needed to do enough visualization, enough self-motivation work just to decide this. And these were my stories about Jerry Schaub that I made up out of thin air, and I had tons of evidence to support making up something entirely different, but I made this up. I made up that if I drove 3 hours in an ice storm, Jerry would, out of appreciation, buy a case instead of a bottle. I just made that up. I decided it. I decided it was true. I decided it was inevitable. I decided that's what would happen. Not maybe it would happen, not I'm going to try and make it happen, not when I get to Cedar Rapids, you know, I hope Jerry buys a case. I decided that Jerry would buy a case if I drove all the way there. I also decided, this is a little creativity, so when you study self-motivation, you'll remember that one of the components of self-motivation is creativity. We get very creative to solve problems. So one of the things I created is if I show up to Cedar Rapids, Iowa through the ice storm a little before noon, guess what Jerry might do? He might invite me to lunch, right? So, and if he invites me to lunch, I made this up. If I get to sit with him for an hour, I have no idea who this guy is. I didn't remember him as a customer. I don't know anything about him. There's no internet. There's no Facebook. You don't like go online and say, who's Jerry Schaub? You have no way of knowing until you show up. I just decided if I had an hour with him that I'd get an opportunity to show him the business. Those are the 3 things I decided. So how much motivation, how much personal development work, how many affirmations did I need to have a home run? 3 basically. That if I drove 3 hours, he'd buy a case. If I got there about noon, he'd buy me lunch. And if I had a lunch with him, I could show him the opportunity. I didn't even visualize that he'd get in. I just visualized those 3 things. I made them up. I decided them. That's how much work I did in personal development. Now watch what happened. And I'm not suggesting this happens every time you do some visualization. I'm just saying when you do the work, you put yourself in a position for awesome things to happen. So I get to Cedar Rapids about noon. Guess what Jerry did? Hey, wow, I can't believe you drove in this ice storm. You okay? Wow, you don't even have snow tires on your car. Are you kidding? Wow, like he was impressed. So we met at the Village Inn. That's what we set up to meet. Got there about 11:40. He says, you want to have lunch? Sure. Lunch is a good idea. Halfway through lunch, he says, is there any money in this? I didn't plan this out, but this is another, like a manifestation of the work that I'd done, that I did. He said, is there any money in this? I said, it'll blow your mind. I was making $300 a month. I was driving a borrowed car. I said, it'd blow your mind. Now you may say, well, you lied to him. No, I didn't. If I'd have told him I was driving a borrowed car and made $300 a month after 2.5 years, might have blown his mind. It might have also blown his mind if I told him how much money Dave Austin, my upline, was making. You know, who was like 23 years old and like, you know, just used to be a hippie, and he's making $15,000, $20,000 a month after 2.5 years. It would have blown his mind. So I showed the opportunity to Jerry, and Jerry got in. Jerry, like, you know, for those of you, I'll tell you the rest of the story some other time, but Jerry just built this huge organization, and then he sponsored his cousin who built an even bigger organization. And who gets the benefit of all of that? I do. Like, all of a sudden, I'm like Mr. Big. Why? Because I decided to drive to Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And what does this all have to do with W for the win? Well, so here, show you my view. So I don't know if you probably can't tell from this camera, but see the water down there? That's where I walked from. And how do you get up here? You walk these stairs right here. I call this the stairway to heaven. There's 201 of those stairs. And they're just about straight up. And so I got to Noosa. I'm in Noosa, Australia. I'm here for 2.5, 3 months with my wife, Kimmy. We're just going to live here and enjoy Noosa. And we got here, I think, I can't remember, Sunday or Monday or Tuesday or whenever. I don't know, about 4, 5, 6 days ago. And one of the things we decided to do was do the stairs every day, because we were here in March and we did the stairs a few times. And we decided we're going to do the stairs every day for 2.5 months. Every day that we're here, we're going to do the stairs. And so the first day I did the stairs, which I think was like 6 days ago, I stopped 4 times. 4 times coming up the stairs. 4 times to catch my breath. 4 times for the burn to go away. See this guy right here, he'll tell you right there. How'd that feel? He's got weights on.
Serious.
He's serious. He's got weights on. I love, you're my hero. All over the place. He's local, no kidding. He's got to be local. Yep, 201 of them. So guess what? 4 times I stopped. And you know, that was not so frustrating because Kimmy, she goes right to the top, no stops, right? She's waiting for me at the top. And so the next day, day 2, 3 stops. Progress. And this is the point of my whole life today, progress. So, you know, guess what the 3 stops did for me as opposed to 4 stops? Now, I started climbing the stairs out of a vision. I just made up, I'm going to climb the stairs every day. I hate climbing the stairs. If there's anything I'd rather not do than this kind of exercise. Pointless exercise. Straight up the stairs. I did not want to climb the stairs. But I want to get fit more than I don't want to climb the stairs. So it's a balance. Whichever one you weigh more heavily on, that's what you're going to do. So that's why it's so important to have a really clear vision about what you want. So I have a really clear vision. I have specific goals about my fitness. And I want that more than I don't want to walk up the stairs. Simple as that. You got to figure all that stuff out for yourself, but it's as simple as that. So here's the point of the W for the win. So day 2, only 3 stops. But then guess what? Day 3, day 4, day 5, 3 stops. No progress. So you guys can probably relate to this I've been doing this for a week, 2 weeks, no progress. You know, the first day, maybe somebody said yes, nobody said yes, you know, for a week. What's wrong? What am I doing wrong? Like that. We get stuck on a plateau. It changes our story if we're not careful. Now, I didn't let it change my story because I know the process. So, you know, if you're going to run up the stairs, which is one of my visions for 2.5 months from now, I'm going to run up these stairs. That's one of my clear visions. I can see it, I can feel it, I can taste it. I think about it every day. Whenever I see the stairs, I think about I'm running up those stairs at the end of my 2.5 months, all the way up 201 stairs. So you got to have a crystal clear vision of what you want, or what you don't want just weighs out, right? So I go from 3 to last night going up the stairs with Kristen Toby, who runs up the stairs from day 1. I went from the bottom to the top with 1 stop. Last night, 1 stop. All the way to the top, 1 stop. So guess what? Guess what yesterday's 1 stop did for me? This is the point of this whole life. You don't have to do vision and self-motivation all the way to the top of the stairs, to running to the top of the stairs. You just have to do enough to get in a car and drive to Cedar Rapids. You just have to do enough so that you walk the stairs every day, because you know that's going to produce an improvement. And it did. I went from 3 stops to 1 stop. And the 1 stop was worth 1,000 visionary experiences, worth 1,000 pages of vision. Why? Because I produced a little bit of a result that I got to go, hey, wow, that's real. I did that. 1 stop. You can't take that away from me, right? So that's way more powerful than 100 pages of vision and writing and stories and pictures and all that kind of stuff, because I get to check that box. I like to notch that piece. 1 stop. Guess what that did for me today? I just completed my 2nd back-to-back up the stairs, no stops. W for the win. So it's not about like creating a vision and self-motivation that carries you all the way to the ends of the earth, to everything that you want to accomplish. It's you just need to do enough to get a W in the W column, to get a win for yourself. So just imagine if you're in the network marketing business and you know, part of what you're up to is recruiting team members. Just imagine how it's going to feel when you get one, right? Imagine how that's going to propel you forward. Like how on fire you're going to be when you get the one. You don't have to like create the whole thing, just the one. And what do you have to do to get one? You got to climb the stairs every day till you get one, right? And just notice how, you know, someday you're going to get positive results and then you're going to plateau out for a few days, maybe a week, and just pay attention to the story you tell yourself. You got to stick with the vision and stick with the single daily action and trust that that consistency, that compounding of consistency is going to pay off. And just, you know, look for that W, look for that one win, because that one win is going to propel you to get a second win and a third win. You don't have to eat the whole elephant. You just have to take a bite, right? All right. Over and out from Noosa, Australia. Talk to you tomorrow.